It is Wednesday, the 16th of June, 2021, and first things first, as Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, used to say back in the good old days on One More Chance, which might be all that we've got left. You'll note that I'm rocking a new t-shirt. Here's the back. This is a provocative one, I'm sure you'd agree, and it comes from Joe over at Sovereign T-shirts at T-Mill. If anyone wants to get hold of one of these t-shirts or one of the many other designs in the range, the link will be in the show notes below. Many thanks to Joe for this. This will be a great one to wear out. It will be a conversation starter. It will trigger many people. It will push some buttons. And it's a great way of getting some dialogue going. So these t-shirts certainly have some value when worn out. A lot of people have wondered where I've been over the past 2 or 3 weeks, as I've not uploaded any new content to my main YouTube channel in that time. The only reason I'm ever absent for long periods like this is because I'm prevented from uploading any new material. I would never choose to take a break this long. So the reason you've not heard from me is because I picked up a second channel strike and a 2-week ban on this YouTube channel for a video that had already been out for several weeks. This was my interview with Michael O'Bernacea, the Bernician, going back to March. And YouTube suddenly decided, at the time that I had announced the big mass meditation that I was organising on the 6th of June, to give me a channel strike which prevented me from uploading any new content talking about the meditation and doing an after video in the aftermath of it. So skullduggery abounds there. Why was that video sitting there quite happily for several weeks with no issues, and then it caused me to get a strike? That same video is still on Michael's channel and it's not caused any issues there. YouTube fun and games, it is what it is. And many people say to me, just abandon YouTube, why are you still on it? Well, the reason I'm still on it is because this channel has 57,000 subscribers officially. I suspect it's many more, and the numbers are being suppressed. And most of my videos get in excess of 20,000 views. So this platform remains the best and most effective way that I have of getting messages out to large numbers of people in one go. Yes, I do have a BitChute channel, and everything that goes on this YouTube also goes on my BitChute, and I do have a Library Odyssey channel, which is a mirror of this YouTube channel. So if I should ever get taken out completely, and I get a third strike, which involves the entire channel getting taken down, all my videos will be over at Library and Odyssey, and I've got other contingency plans in place. But in the meantime, this channel does remain my best option for getting my information out. So I am going to continue with it for as long as I'm still able. If I can hang on until the 22nd of June, which is next week, another of my strikes expires, which means I should be relatively safe for a while. So we'll see what happens. You know, we know that Google, YouTube, and all these other big tech platforms don't like truth getting out. They don't like empowering information reaching large numbers of people, and they do whatever they can to suppress it. We live in an inverted society, as my audience will well know, where companies that claim to be all about morals and ethics and community guidelines are actually suppressing free speech and truth and liberating material from getting out there. They're anything but supporters of that. They represent satanic corporations which are doing the bidding of a very evil control system that wants to suppress and enslave humanity. We know this, okay? So this video is specifically addressed to the people of the UK, and particularly England and Wales. So we had the announcement the other day from the fat, bloated, overfed, overprivileged, gallows-dodging old Etonian that Freedom Day on the 21st of June can't now go ahead as planned because of a mutant strain of a virus which has never been proven to exist. It's never been isolated. There's difference of opinion over the true nature of a virus anyway, and whether it can actually be spread from person to person, but that's all by the by. Apparently a mutant strain from India, or the Delta strain, whatever they're calling it, the Stoke-on-Trent strain, the Penzance strain, call it what you will, is preventing the opening up that they'd hoped to bring in on the 21st of June, because, they really wanted to open everything up and they had planned to, but they're just doing the responsible and safe thing by keeping everything locked down for at least another month until the 19th of July. Which incidentally is a date on which Parliament goes into recess for the summer. And then by the time you get to the end of the summer holidays, we're into September, which is knocking on the door of autumn, which is when cold and flu season starts again. So you can see where this is going. It's going to be perpetual, ongoing lockdowns. We've been told that this is the last one they're going to impose, but it seems like it's never going to end. So that serves them just fine. I mean, who couldn't see this coming? It's so predictable. Who really believed that everything was going to go back to normal on the 21st of June? These psychopathic, demonic, sick, diseased, freak, demon ghouls are nothing if not predictable, pathetic, and utterly transparent. And a lot of people have been saying to me that this really would be the line in the sand for the Walking Dead, the armies of normies out there, that when they were told they couldn't after all get their freedoms back that they had anticipated on the 21st of June, and they couldn't go to nightclubs, festivals, big sporting events, big gatherings, that when they received that news, that really would be breaking point for them, and there would be major uprising, resistance, and most importantly, non-compliance. People saying, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to continue to keep our businesses shut down. We're not going to continue preventing ourselves from seeing friends and family in large numbers, whatever numbers we choose. We're not going to be restricted in who we have in our own households. We're not going to wear these stupid bloody face nappies all the time. It would be nice to think that that kind of reaction would have been provoked by what's been done to us. But I don't see the signs of that. It's a couple of days since the announcement. There are some big events coming up in London. I'll talk some more about those towards the end of this video, specifically this coming Monday, which is the 21st of June, and then Saturday 26th of June, big protest, freedom, rally marches in London, and doubtless other cities as well. But as far as I can see, it's not brought the mass resistance, the mass non-compliance that many of us hoped it would. Just imagine what would happen if everyone said, we're not doing it. We saw an example a few weeks ago on Bournemouth Beach. On a hot sunny day, it was absolutely packed, and there was footage of police talking to each other saying, what are we going to do? They're not social distancing. There's so many of them down there. What can we do? And another police officer said, well, there's nothing we can do. There's too many of them. Why is that not happening on a nationwide societal basis? Why aren't people saying, we're sick of this, it's all bollocks, it's all based on lies, deceptions, deliberate misinformation, and bad science. All the evidence is there to show this is the case, as my audience will well know. And we're just not doing it. Where would be the power of the control system then? I've said it so many times. So many other speakers and researchers and commenters on this narrative have said the same thing. The day that mass numbers of people all get on the same page and say, we're not complying with this tyranny any longer, is the day all this ends. Never mind being told when our Freedom Day is going to be by some irrelevant, fictional, illusory, evil entity called government. Never mind them telling us when we get our Freedom Day. Our Freedom Day is any time we choose it. Rights and freedoms come from the Creator, the Most High, from creation, from the universe itself, natural law in effect, universal laws that are in operation 24/7 everywhere in this realm of existence. No man or woman or mythical entity or corporation has the right to tell you how you can live your life, because they don't possess the ability to dish out those rights. And the day enough people realise this is the day this shit show comes to an end. You know, somewhere in existence, there must be a parallel universe, a version of this reality where everything looks the same. Everything in terms of countries and backdrop and how everything looks is the same as what we've got here. Except in this parallel universe, truth, freedom, justice and love are in effect. And the population is living their lives according to natural law principles, of which they have a deep comprehension through having been taught this stuff from the earliest age and applying it in their lives and seeing how it works and how it brings about the manifested results. So in this parallel universe, Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Joe Biden, whoever he is, Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, Chris Whitty, Patrick Vallance, Neil Ferguson, Sadiq Khan, Dominic Raab, all of them, all the traitors, all the liars, Angela Merkel, Scott Morrison, Jacinda Ardern, whatever her bloody name is, all of them, all these treacherous demons, these enemies of humanity, are in jail. They're incarcerated for the rest of their natural lives because the people have seen to this. The people will not tolerate their attempts to have us live under slavery, in dystopia, under fascistic tyranny. The people have risen up, taken action, and seen to it that these demons go where they belong, which is in incarceration behind bars for the rest of their days. That's what happens in this alternative parallel universe version of the one we've got. But unfortunately, that's not the one we're living in. It could be. We could have that any time we choose. Freedom Day would be every day. When enough of us step into that power and realise that we possess the ability to bring that scenario around. But in the meantime, we're stuck in this one. We're stuck in a reality where Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci are walking around free men instead of walking around a prison exercise yard. I mean, how is it even possible that there's been all this talk in the mainstream media of Anthony Fauci's email correspondence and his links to this lab in Wuhan where COVID is said to have been cooked up? Whatever the truth of the matter is, Fauci is neck deep in controversy and dirt concerning his links going all the way back to the AIDS situation in the 1980s. It's been discussed on multiple news channels, but he's still a free man. Not only that, he's still in his job. How's he not even been fired at the very least? Matt Hancock. There was a scandal a few months ago in the UK concerning the PCP test kits and these contracts for getting the kits out there, and the family links, the nepotistic connections that Hancock had, firms involving his sister and personal friends of his. And the mainstream press got hold of that and said, this is inappropriate, Matt Hancock shouldn't be acting this way. The other week, Dominic Cummings came out, directly accused Johnson, Hancock, Whitty of lying on multiple occasions, presented evidence of what they'd lied about. It made the BBC Evening News. It made the newspapers. How is it possible that Johnson and Hancock and Whitty and the rest of them are still in office? How is it possible? Why are people tolerating this? How can this stuff break the surface and make mainstream news, but people aren't getting angry about it? They're not demanding action. How is it allowed to just fizzle out and go to nothing? And these people remain in their jobs and they carry on inflicting all this harm, damage and loss on us when they've got zero right to do so. And none of us consented to it. None of us asked for it. We just wanted to be left alone. That's all we've ever wanted. To be left alone, to live freely. We've got these outrageous incursions on our daily lives. We don't want it, and yet we're all putting up with it. The day we stop putting up with it, the day we all say we're not complying with this any longer, is the day they lose all their power. And the likes of Hancock, Johnson, and all the rest of us have no hold over our lives anymore. Not that they ever did with some of us, because they're an irrelevance. They don't matter because we don't comply anyway. But there's not enough of us. And we need more. And maybe in a parallel universe somewhere, that scenario is playing out. But it's not playing out in this one, in which we're all forced to live. And it's about time that it did. So where is people's line in the sand going to be? What is it going to take for the masses of this population to learn its lesson? Because there are lessons being taught here, spiritual, metaphysical life lessons that we all need to learn on an individual and on a collective basis. But it seems the masses aren't choosing the easy, simplistic way of learning these lessons quickly and applying them in their lives, taking on board that knowledge, that wisdom, and then moving on to the next stage. It seems collectively we don't want that. It seems collectively we are choosing the most difficult path of hardship and suffering to learn these inevitable lessons. I got into this in my podcast with Mark Passio of a few weeks ago, and he presented a very useful metaphor, analogy to the dynamic that's taking place. So he suggested someone who places their hand over a flame becomes aware very quickly that it's not in their best interests to do so, that putting your hand in a flame is very harmful and causes suffering, and it's not something you want to be doing. So you can either learn that lesson very quickly, withdraw your hand from the flame with minimal damage, just a slight burn, and take on board that knowledge that you don't want to be doing that. That's bad for you. Instead of learning that lesson in that easiest of ways, what this population and humanity in general is choosing is to place their hand over a flame and leave it there until the flame melts away their skin and burns all the way down to the bone and turns the bone into ash. That's the extent of the suffering that is necessary to learn that lesson. And the metaphor here is that humanity is choosing to go into abject slavery and blatant tyranny in order to learn valuable lessons about freedom, about rights, about truth. The most difficult path that it's possible to take. And collectively, it seems people are choosing to take that path. And unfortunately, they're dragging the rest of us along with them that have already learnt that lesson and we've already applied it in our lives. But because where we go one, we go all, we're all having to learn this lesson in the most difficult of ways and go through maximum suffering and hardship. And what it seems it's going to take, going back to my t-shirt is mass numbers of people dying immediately this year and in years to come because of the cumulative effects of these, taken multiple times, one after the other, as we're being trained to accept these things. It's going to take hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people dropping dead from these for the masses to wake up to the fact that, duh, hang on a minute, something's not quite right here. Duh, I'm a bit slow on the uptake. Well, people are, aren't they? A bit bloody slow. Because this lesson should have been learnt months ago when this scamdemic shit show first started, because all the evidence was there and all the opportunities to wake up to the truth of what this agenda is all about were there. But people aren't choosing that. You know, if I had £1 for every email that I receive from someone saying, I have begged and implored my family members, my parents, my sister, my cousin, whoever it may be, not to take the V. I've presented them with evidence. I've asked them to look at doctors and NHS whistleblower videos where they're laying out what these things really do, what's in them, what the real agenda is here. I've asked people to look into the background of Bill Gates, his family connections, the value system that he stands for. I've presented them with documents. I've presented them with testimonies from people that have taken the V and have suffered horrific adverse reactions, if not having died from them. And even in spite of me giving them all this information and begging them, because I love them, not to take these things, they've gone ahead and taken it anyway. In many cases, they have suffered adverse reactions from the first dose. And what have they done? Once they've got up off their sick bed and recovered from the symptoms, they've gone right back out and got the second. Because some authority figure in a white coat told them to. If I had £1 for every email that I receive of that nature from people saying that family members have taken this thing against all the best advice, I wouldn't be sitting in this room in my house right now. I'd be recording this video from my private Caribbean island, having sailed there on my yacht or flown there on my private jet, because I'd be a billionaire. Maybe I exaggerate. A millionaire at least. So this is what it's going to take, because people have chosen of their own free will, because free will and consent is always present. They've chosen the most difficult path. And whereas Freedom Day could be any day we want it, Freedom Day could be every day, instead we're walking that difficult, rocky road and undergoing all kinds of hardships. And this is where the agenda was always intended to end up, here with these things. And this is where the genocide and the population reduction lies, because these are very real dynamics. This is what the psychopaths, who like to think of themselves as our controllers, but they are only because we allow them to be, this is where they always plan to take things. And they always knew that they would be able to reduce the world's population significantly through these. And they've judged it brilliantly. Got to give it to them. It's evil genius. I have to grudgingly accept that they've played this one brilliantly, like world masters of chess. Because can you imagine if they'd misjudged it? You know, a big part of what's going on right now has involved the emasculation of males, the removal of that sacred masculine spirit of self-defense in the face of threats. This is action that real men in creation, in the vision of the Most High, the Creator, were always intended to step into. When there is an immediate, present threat to your personal well-being and safety, and that of the people around you that you care for and are responsible for, you take on not only the right, but the obligation to step into whatever preventative action is needed to put that threat down, up to and including the use of deadly force, if that's what it comes to. Real males should have been rising up in armies and militias months ago, when this whole thing started, to put down this threat. By now, the whole scamdemic shit show should have been, a distant memory, a bad memory, consigned to the history books. We learn the lessons from it. We take them with us as we move forward to a better future shaped in our own image and vision. But that hasn't happened, because a great job has been done of softening up, dumbing down, and feminizing men over the past generation or two, through social engineering, through societal mind control, and through things like traces of estrogen being present in the water supply and in various foods, and due to environmental factors such as what's coming down from the chemtrails, again, chemicals and compounds that are present in food and drink and the water supply and all other things that have been affecting males on a physical basis. Great numbers of what would otherwise be real men rising up and taking action have instead been neutered and defanged into just quiet, cowardly compliance. And the social engineers, the behavioural experts, the scientists behind this agenda always planned for that to be the case. So they've been preparing for this for years and decades, as we well know. And part of that has involved putting down what would otherwise be a very clear threat to them of real men stepping into action by turning them into weak, compliant pussies who put on the face mask, stand in line like they're told to, and don't cause a fuss. So the social engineers always planned for this to be the case. Can you imagine if they'd misjudged it? Can you imagine if they'd tried to pull this stunt? First of all, they knew they couldn't get away with it in previous decades. If they'd tried this scamdemic in the 70s or 80s, in the era of football hooliganism, and, the National Front, British National Party, all of this. Not that I'm saying those were good things. Not that I'm saying those types of behaviours that we saw were good things. I'm merely pointing out that the controllers knew that if they tried to drop this one on us back in those eras, it would very quickly have been put down, because real men would have risen up and would have put down the threat. But they dropped this one on us in 2020, and they knew that by that time they'd spent years feminizing and dumbing down men to the point that they needn't expect any real resistance from armies of men rising up and stepping into their power. And they judged it brilliantly, didn't they? Because they've had no kind of threat, no kind of danger, no kind of resistance of that nature at all. If they'd got it wrong, they would have been fucked. And they would have been put out of business very, very quickly. But they were very confident of the softening up job that they'd done. And they went right ahead with this most arrogant and audacious of plans, straight out of the narrative of some James Bond movie. Really. Who saw this coming? Who would ever have imagined that they would play their hand this blatantly and be this audacious. But they've done it, and they're getting away with it. They judged it brilliantly. But again, as so many of us have stated on so many occasions, it stops any time we want it to stop. Freedom Day is any day we choose it to be. How long is it going to take for humanity, and specifically the population of this land, to realise this? Was the line in the sand not the other day, when they dashed all the hopes of so many people that thought they could have gatherings again, go away on summer holidays and just do whatever they want and live freely, so long as they're harming no one else? Have we not crossed that line in the sand now? And if that wasn't it, then where is it? Is it going to take your immediate circle of family, friends, loved ones, your parents, dropping dead from these for people to learn the lesson and realise what this has all been about? It seems that's what humanity has chosen at this time. That's the way they've chosen to learn this lesson. But one way or another, whether down the easy route or the most difficult route, the lesson will be learned. Okay, so on to the notice board section. Lots of announcements to make here. First off, I've just picked up another 30-day ban over on Fastbook. It's no great surprise. It's actually my 6th 30-day ban. I've spent almost as much time in the past year being banned from that particular platform as I have being on it. I take it as a badge of honour. I take it as confirmation that I'm ruffling a few feathers and I'm copping the flack because I'm over the target. They don't tend to like truth over on Fastbook, do they? They don't actually like it here either, but we'll keep putting it out for as long as we're able. So don't expect to see me on Fastbook until mid-July now. The Twitter still remains. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's twitter.com/DJMarkDevlin. But the best advice is to go to my main website, which is djmarkdevlin.com, for all my updates, links to all the videos, all the shows, all the podcasts. They're all there. That's djmarkdevlin.com. Shout once again to my great webmaster, Eric, doing a wonderful job on putting that all together. I was due to DJ at the No Vax, No Test Festival, which was going to be taking place over the weekend of 25th to the 27th of June. Sadly, that event has now been cancelled. It was actually cancelled before the latest fascist diktats on opening up were released by Jack Boot Johnson. So I've got a message here on my state-of-the-art 2005 style technology from the promoter, and I'll just read out what they've got to say about it. On behalf of me and the team, it is with heavy hearts that we have to announce the cancellation of the festival. Due to low ticket sales and lack of interest, we can't carry on due to the costs involved. We as a team have met some fantastic people on this journey, and a big thank you to everyone that's been involved with the planning and all your hard work. Everyone who's purchased a ticket will of course get a full refund. Let's make this the 3rd Summer of Love, so we hope everyone will still get out there and party. So the organisers are hoping this event can still go ahead in July or August. As soon as I hear any more on that, particularly if I'm going to be involved myself, I'll let you know via one of these video updates. I may be playing instead at a different festival that same weekend. So this is the Chimera Festival, and it consists mainly of psy-trance and associated styles, which are genres I know very little about, don't get involved in those myself, but if I do DJ at this one, I'm going to be contributing a soulful, uplifting house set, which are the styles that I do in the Sound of Now weekly podcast. So this event is taking place in Tunbridge Wells over that same weekend of Friday 25th to Sunday 27th of June. If I do end up playing, it's going to be on the Friday, the 25th, between 1 and 3 p.m, soulful house style, because the following day, Saturday the 26th, I'm going to be in attendance at the big London Freedom Rally, which is going to be massive. More on that shortly. So the Chimera Festival, if it does take place, will be over that weekend. As soon as I hear any more on that from the promoters in terms of whether they're going to be able to continue in accordance with these latest fascist diktats, I'll let you know. Lord knows we could all do with a party by now, couldn't we? We could all do with some great music and dancing and friendship, because we are, of course, facing a communistic war on joy, and the shutting down of nightclubs, festivals, and all other ways of large numbers of people having fun together is all part of the agenda to demoralise us and to take away that inherent part of our humanity. On that note, I'm going to be doing a Good Vibrations episode with Danny Rampling shortly. So Danny is a very well-known DJ on the house dance music scene, one of the pioneers of the acid house movement way back in the day. Now, Danny is a very interesting guy, and he stands out, always has, from his DJ peers. There are certain other names that I could mention, and probably will in due course, who tend to toe the line, put on a mask, and shut up when they're instructed to do so, because they don't want to sabotage their careers by saying the wrong thing. Danny pretty much stands alone in being a very well-known DJ face who has been standing up and speaking out about the tyranny and the dystopia that we're all facing. So at the last big London Freedom Rally on the 29th of May, he did an interview afterwards where he was talking about the outrageous invasion on our rights and freedoms that we're having imposed on us. So Danny is somebody that understands that rights and freedoms come from creation and from the Most High, rather than from any fictional entity called government. That makes him an interesting guy to listen to. He's also got some very spiritual and metaphysical takes on life and philosophy. So that's going to be an interesting chat. Danny Rampling standing up and doing what needs to be done. Where are his peers? Where are others from his field? You know, isn't it tragic that in the entire music industry, in terms of household names, we've got Ian Brown, Van Morrison, Eric Clapton, Right Said Fred, unexpectedly, Danny Rampling, and very few others. It pretty much says it all, doesn't it? So watch out for that Good Vibrations episode coming soon. I've got a couple new episodes talking about different healing methods, which are going to benefit so many of us as we go through these stressful times and experience anxiety, maybe disturbed sleep patterns. I'm going to be talking with a couple of people about methods of addressing those issues and all the very human problems that we're all facing in our individual households in these most challenging of times. Coming up towards the end of the year, I'm going to be hitting the 200th episode of Good Vibrations, and that also coincides with the 10th anniversary of the series. I've been putting these shows out since late 2011. The first one was with David Icke, and I'm going to be hitting 200 towards the end of the year. I've got some ideas for 3 special shows that I want to do to mark that occasion. So watch out for the 200th Good Vibrations coming towards the end of this year. I've just produced episode 105 in my Sound of Freedom Conscious Music podcast series. This is empowering truth and message music that you don't stand a chance of ever hearing on the radio because it's too good. This is a 2-hour special. It's been a long time since I had a chance to put together an episode of The Sound of Freedom, so as a result the music has all built up and I've collated it all into a 2-hour episode. It's the longest episode in the series so far. So it covers all kinds of styles and genres. There's some conscious hip hop, there's some rock type stuff, and it finishes with some very uplifting gospel house style, soulful house music. If you've never heard this stuff before, give it a chance because it really speaks to the soul, really speaks to the spirit, and it's the most uplifting and inspirational style of music that I know about. This is the music I play each week on my Sound of Now radio show, And this is also available every Saturday, new episodes on Mixcloud. It consists of soulful, uplifting, inspirational house music. So the Sound of Freedom Show 105 will be ready very soon. Just finishing the processing of that. That will be online and ready to download from my Mixcloud as of tomorrow. I'll put the link in the show notes below, and The Sound of Now is also available exclusively on Mixcloud, and you can download it as well, and likewise the link to that will be in the show notes below as well. This is my music stuff. It helps to keep me sane. It's very therapeutic and cathartic for me to throw myself into these activities, and it reminds me that before this shit show and before all this stuff that I feel obligated to do these days, I was actually a DJ. And it's good to go back to my roots as a music man and keep these shows going. I hope you enjoy them as much as I enjoyed putting them together. Really good to meet Rob Clark. I want to give Rob a shout out. He's been putting out newsletters for a number of years now, and his popularity has really taken off, similar to my own, during the scamdemic as a result of the regular newsletters he puts out, giving his take on what's going on. And he's a very clued up guy. He's made many predictions since March of 2020 as to where this whole scamdemic will go and what the next steps in the agenda are going to be, what we can expect to play out on the evening news. And as he pointed out in one of his newsletters this week, he's been absolutely bang on with everything that he's predicted. This is not because he's some kind of guru or sage or mystic that is channeling this stuff from the ether. He's just someone that's done the research and has spotted the patterns and has come to realise how these sick, freak, demon goons operate. It's not that difficult to predict their next move when you know what the game plan is. They are very predictable. They're very boring. They don't have a lot of imagination. And Rob's been bang on in preparing us for what the next stage is in all of this. But as he points out in pretty much every one of his newsletters, it ends when we collectively decide that it ends. As I pointed out at the start of this video, we're in control of this narrative, not our opponents. We get to decide when we get our freedom back. We get to decide when this shit show comes to an end, when there's enough of us on board, when collectively we're all on the same page. So if you want to join Rob's newsletter, you can subscribe to it. You can get that sent out every week. I highly recommend it, and I'll put the link to where you can subscribe in the download in the notes below. So Rob joined us on our regular little truther gathering close to where I live in Northamptonshire last night, Tuesday. We've been meeting every Tuesday, myself and a small group of truth seekers in this area for the past year plus. During the months of lockdown, when everything was closed, we were meeting in a bus shelter, whatever the weather. Rain, hail, sleet, snow. We were there like a bunch of old tramps with our cans of Tennent's Extra in the bus shelter. We're now able to meet in the pub or in the beer garden out the back. And we have some great gatherings on Tuesday, and really this has helped keep me sane, if I am still sane, during this whole madness. Just being able to meet with like-minded folk in the local area, and for us all to support each other and talk through what's happening and plan a few strategies, plan a few things we want to do. And we were very surprised during one of our bus shelter meetings a few months ago to find a bunch of stickers had been slapped all around the shelter. And we all turned to each other and said, "Was that you?" "No, was it you?" And we realised that none of us had done it, but somebody else in town had been around slapping these. And these are stickers from the White Rose group. You can find them on Telegram at t.me/join the White Rose. Again, I'll put that link in the notes below. But they got some great stickers. They're truth bombing. This is the person calling you a conspiracy theorist. It's the 6 o'clock news. Here's what we want you to believe. Resist the new normal. What else? Staying human is more important than living in fear. People in 1940s Germany didn't realise they'd been brainwashed by the media and the government either. So some great stickers. These were all over the place. Repeat after me. Great one. So at the last London protest that I was at these stickers were everywhere, just slapped all over buses, all over post boxes, hilariously being slapped all over police vehicles. So they're doing a great job over at White Rose, and somebody's doing a great job of getting these stickers out and about. Upcoming events in London. Monday the 21st of June. Freedom Day. The solstice. Big gathering outside Parliament from 11 a.m. Big shout to David Clues at No More Lockdowns, doing a great job in being involved in these events and raising awareness and trying to organise some kind of resistance. But this one's happening on a Monday. There was a big event, of course, this Monday just gone on the 14th, which got some mainstream news coverage. Great to see people taking it to the streets on a weekday. There's been a criticism of these protests that take place on Saturdays. Some people feel that they've become social occasions for truth seekers to get together and pat each other on the back and just have a big kind of love-in together. I don't feel that's the case, but taking that criticism on board, there has got to be far more value then to doing these events on weekdays and particularly Mondays. And particularly if they involve blockades or sit-ins, if they're going to disrupt politicians and other expressions of the establishment from going about their business. That has got to be far more effective than what's been happening on the Saturdays, bringing traffic to a stop in Oxford Street and affecting shoppers and tourists. It's a different matter when we affect these treacherous bastards that are complicit in our slavery. So preventing them from being able to get to their places of work, preventing them from being able to get around freely, has got to have some impact and send that message home all the more. So that event is taking place on Monday. I think that's going to be huge. It's going to be a landmark event. Anyone that can get down there outside Parliament from 11 a.m, Monday 21st of June, please do. I'll see you there. Looking forward to being in attendance at that one. Then the big freedom rally on Saturday the 26th of June. As I said, there are always mixed opinions on the efficacy or otherwise of these events. I personally feel they have major value, and I'm happy to add my voice to the sound of the crowd, in the words of the Human League. So I'll definitely be in attendance on Saturday the 26th, and I have a feeling a whole load more people are going to be. This one is going to top 1 million people. The last big event on the 29th of May, from what I hear, got very close to 1 million people if it didn't reach that figure. Wouldn't it be great to get to 3 million, as reportedly occurred in Berlin a couple of times last year? 3 million people taking it to the streets. We can argue all day long about whether these protests actually achieve anything. My standpoint is always that they send out a visual signal to anyone that's watching that there are large numbers of us who are not having it anymore. We're not taking it. We're pushing back. We recognise that the power lies with us. 1 million people, or 2 or 3 million, on the streets of London sends a very clear indicator to the evildoers that there are many of us that are not on board, and we're going to be a major problem for them in moving their agenda forward. So Saturday, 26th of June in London, keep an eye out for the announcements as to where it kicks off. They always start round about the same kind of place, round about the Green Park area, the corner of Hyde Park down there. So looking forward to being a part of that one. Let's make history. More video updates coming very soon. I'm looking to put out another one towards this weekend, either Saturday the 19th or Sunday the 20th, and that will be delving into the mailbag and also giving an update on the meditation that I organised for the 6th of June, talking about the next one, trying to galvanise people to be a part of that, but looking at some of the feedback that people have sent in regarding that event on the 6th of June. So lots of emails to read out, and because I've been absent from YouTube for a couple of weeks, I've got a backlog of stuff that I need to deal with. So the next video will be coming in a few days, and I hope to see you at the weekend for an update on everything else. In the meantime, enjoy the comedy skit, because you have to laugh at the farcical, absurd nature of the circumstances in which we're living. You either laugh at it or you curl up in a ball in the corner and cry uncontrollably. And we can't have that. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you for the next video in a few days, and I hope to see many, many of you out on the streets of London on the 21st and the 26th of June. Till then.